Hi, Matt. No work? Oh, I see light. All right. We're ready to begin. We're going to begin going over the 2026 budget. Eileen Cipriani, the
Sure, everybody gets a chance to talk about their department and, more importantly, be respectful of everyone's time. So I want to start off by thanking council. We appreciate the opportunity every year to come here, talk about the budget, explain changes for the future, and then, talk a little bit about historically about how how things went in the past year. So just right off the top, I want to start with there is no tax increase included in this year's budget, and there's no TRAN included in the budget, and that's the third year in a row for no TRAN. First thing off the top is real estate tax. So there's two significant changes that we'll talk about under real estate tax. The first is this year's budget will be the first one that will have a single millage. Historically, the city had two split millage between land and improvements. Now, I'm saying this with a big caveat at this point because the county still needs to certify the new assessment. We're waiting to see if that happens tomorrow, but we're proceeding right now with as if the new assessment is going to be approved, and then we'll adjust accordingly if that's not the case. So the reason for the switch to the single millage is this started back in 1913. The rationale behind it was they wanted to develop land in the city, so they split the millage and made the land higher. So there's only about a dozen municipalities of the 2,500 in the Commonwealth that actually still use that. So we want to move ourselves into modern day methodology and data tracking with that. The other thing you'll see with the millage is once the new assessment is applied, our millage will actually be 6.0439 in 2026. So that will be a really large change that you will see that people will note. It is important to note that this is revenue neutral. That is required in the year of reassessment. So that millage change is to make sure that we have the same amount of revenue as we did previously. So we're still waiting, as I said, to see what happens with the county. Understand that they are supposed to meet tomorrow, so hopefully we'll have an update at that point. So the city's trash fee is $300. That's what it's been. It will remain the same in 2026. That gives us a collection rate of $7.7 million. Real estate transfer tax. The real estate market has remained active given the housing shortages and the lack of affordable housing nationwide. Based on current conditions, the city budgeted $6.2 million for real estate transfer tax in 2026. Earned income tax. The city's earned income tax has been steadily increased over the last several years due to continued economic growth nationwide and specifically in Scranton in the downtown area. In 2025, the total amount of earned income tax was $36.1 million. The budget for this year, 2026, will show $37.4 million being budgeted for earned income tax. Payroll prep tax. As you know, the city and the school district have been collecting jointly payroll prep tax. So as we're now moved into the fourth year of levying this tax, in 2026, the city will budget $2.8 million in current payroll prep tax, and the delinquent tax will be $530,000. I believe last year was the first year we noted that we would have delinquent collection in our budget. Other revenue, in 2024, we had $1.3 million in interest deposited in the city's account. And while the overall interest rate market has decreased since 2024 by September of this year, we had $703,000 in interest. We're looking for next year to put a budgetary mark in it for $945,000 in earned interest rate. Again, as I said before, the trend, it will be eliminated this year again. So as far as revenue summary, the city's revenue for this year is budgeted as $115 million. This is $2.3 million more than the 2025 operating budget. And this increase is primarily due to, as we've mentioned before, the earned income tax being higher, trending higher, and interest earnings. The city's also optimistic that in 2026, the long-awaited grant reimbursement from the 2018 FEMA project that was completed in 24 will be received by the city. Under expenditure highlights, in 2025, as you know, the city's capital expenditures were moved from the operating budget. So this is the first full year we've had of the city having a separate capital spending plan. The city's operating budget now more accurately reflects the city's annual operation cost, while the capital spending plan provides more detail for the capital project's revenue and expenses. This year, the city will transfer $2.3 million from the city's operating budget to the capital reserve fund to support the capital expenditures. As a note on public safety, the police department's operating budget for 2026 will increase by 6%. The fire department's operating budget will increase by 4%. In addition to that, as noted with the capital budget, the capital funding for both police and fire also increased this year. Police department is $1.5 million in capital expenditures, and the fire department is $2.4 million in capital expenditures. For the city's MMO, a very positive development with the city's MMO. Over the last several years, we've been working to decrease the aggregate pension discount rate. This year, we will be going from 6.5% to 6.25%. This is a big threshold for us to get to. It is a very positive industry standard, and S&P will be back in December to visit with us and evaluate where we are, and this will be a very important benchmark that we've met that I think they will look very favorably on. So our MMO obligation for 2026 will be $9.7 million. Oh, I don't know if we want to catch up. We are on expenditure highlights. There we go. All right. OPEB trust contribution. So the city has a very significant unfunded liability with the OPEB trust, but we have been chipping away at it. That's another positive that S&P does look at, that we are attempting to address that. So once again this year, we will be adding $300,000 to the OPEB trust. Our workers' comp. Workers' comp in the city, last year our minimum funding for workers' comp was $3.9 million. This year in 2026, it'll be $3.7 million, anticipating the balance in the city's workers' comp funding that we will have at the end of 2025. We need to budget $3 million in workers' comp to cover that. We've even moved into the police department for IT assistance now, so that's. Thank you. We're not quite to that one yet, but we're almost there. Healthcare. Of note under expenditures, we've been tracking this all year long. Our healthcare expenditures have trended up significantly during the course of 2025. Most of that was prescription drug costs, and they have created a lot of pressure on the city's operating budget. We anticipate that in 2026, we will see healthcare increases, and we budgeted for almost 8.5% increase in healthcare costs. Our debt service obligation will increase slightly, only by $3,600, and we do not contemplate any new borrowing for the 2026 budget. I don't know if you want to add any on the expenses part at this point?
No,
you're good?
Yep.
Okay.
What was the increase from last year on the MMO?
MMO, where are we at, 9?
Wasn't much.
Yeah, it was minor. Was it $13,000?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's only like 13. Got them here somewhere.
And the increase was because we switched the discount rate, so that was actually very positive for us.
Yeah, about 16,000
Okay, thanks.
on the pension.
All right, so this budget does account for several new positions, and I'm sure all the department directors will talk about them, but I'll go over them briefly. So last year around this time, City Council approved a purchase of Esra GIS software. It's mapping software. It has applications in every facet of city government. The police department are using it very significantly to track all of their data and their crimes throughout the city. But the rest of the city departments are using it now to try and make for more efficient government. Some of the new products that you will see will be the 311 system is going to be converted over to this platform. It'll give us the opportunity when a 311 call comes in that it'll go right through the system and be routed to the department, to a particular person in the department to address it. Whether it's a sign went down and it goes right to DPW, when it is completed, it will be checked off, but it'll be also mapped. So we'll be able to know where that issue was and how it was collected. You do know already potholes. We do track potholes. We are also in development for a project to do capital projects and track capital projects. Road closures, which happen all the time with the events, we'll have that up. The street sign replacement. The fire department has used it for smoke detectors, and very shortly we're going to roll out basins so that residents will be able to identify basins through the mapping software that are blocked and need to be addressed. And the really positive part on that is once we go out and we clean them, we check that off, and that goes into our MS4 data so that we're able to track that for MS4 reporting. As I said, the police department has started implementing this, and it's been a really very positive development for them as well. But in order to take this forward and carry all this on, we need to have a project manager that has a skill set that matches the software that we've purchased. So that's why we would like to add it into the budget. Under code enforcement, they're looking to add a confidential secretary. This will help with communications between the bureau manager, the city administration, and outside agencies. It'll also improve record management and coordination of requests, helping with the department's goal of being more efficient, more transparent, and more accountable. DPW under highways is looking to add a supervisor in the highways department. So currently the traffic department and the floods department do not have a direct supervisor. One supervisor does all of highways in both of those departments. It is a very large workload, and it's really the span of control is not really appropriate for that many individuals to try and to really monitor and supervise what's going on. We're asking in particular to get a new supervisor there, because floods and traffic are two of the very front-facing and very important public safety aspects of our highways department. Parks and Recreation, we're looking to add a manager at Naog Park. As you know, the activity pool and the pickleball courts will be coming online in 2026. It's the largest park in the city, largest park in the region. We have day-to-day employees there, but we have no direct supervision of those employees in the park. It's a phenomenal asset for the city, so we want to make sure that it's appropriately managed and cared for. And with the addition of the new pools coming online, we're looking to add another pool operator in order to help maintain the pools. Couple other changes. Previously, the grant manager and the digital media coordinator were under the OECD shop. The grant manager was 77% funded by the city, the rest by OECD. The digital coordinator was 79% funded by the city, the rest by OECD. We are going to move those to be fully funded by the city because at this point we are relatively significantly concerned about HUD funding. We anticipate that it's been cut by about 10% every year since I've worked here, and there's been a lot of back and forth on the federal government as to if they're going to truly fund the home program or just the CDBG. So it doesn't seem like a very stable funding source, so we want to make sure that we cover all our bases there. And lastly, under employment changes, we have a part-time facilities individual in this building. We'd like to change it to have 2 full-time, so that part-time job will be converted to a full-time facilities manager here in the building. There's 12 properties that they maintain, so it's a significant amount of work for 1.5 individuals. And the other piece, the city patrol officers from the Neighborhood Police Patrol, once again, will be funded by OECD on the amount of $330,000. So at the end of our expenditure summary. As we said before, the revenues is $115.5 million, and the expenses are $115.5 million. Our expenditures do not exceed our projected revenues for 2026. We wanted,
A question on the grant. We
On the
did
what
have
part?
On the grant manager, right? So we did have a grant writer that we were splitting with the school district, correct?
yes.
Is that, do we still have that position, or is that,
It will be, it's unfunded at this moment. It
Okay.
exists. Love to see it back. Be something, we did have somebody in there and then they left. So love to see it back, but right now it's not.
okay,
not
and the
there.
grants coordinator position it's just the coordination of the grants, it's not grant writing?
Oh, no, the grant manager does everything. They identify them, they write them, they assist on the administrative side, and the project managers assist on the administrative side on the project management. They interact with the state, and then they close them out.
Okay. So some of the duties that other position, the grant writer, had, is that going to be with this position as well?
Are we going to move it? No, we're not going to move it.
Some of the duties that this new position that you're suggesting, some
Well,
of
it's
those
not a new position. The position exists.
It's
We're
moving
just
to a
going
different
to
department.
have it totally funded out of city dollars as opposed to having OECD dollars in it.
Okay.
So
And
it doesn't really change the position.
Gotcha, okay. And previously, there was part of it funded through the county, is that what you said?
No,
Just OECD?
just OECD.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. No, we've never had that coordination with the county.
Eileen, excuse me. First of all, I apologize for being late to the party here. Just a real quick question, maybe catch up. I don't have to go too deep here. I'm just wondering, with those new positions, since we're not raising taxes, how are these new positions going to be funded? Like, where's the funding coming from?
So as we talk through the beginning part of our revenues, we've seen a very significant increase in earned income tax. So we've done
In what? I'm sorry.
earned income tax.
Excuse me, I didn't hear it again.
EIT, earned income tax.
Okay, right, okay.
So, when, at the end of the day, a lot of these things ultimately pay for themselves in efficiencies.
Sure.
When you look at the stuff that, and Jack could talk about it even better than I can, that is going with Esra and what we could do with Esra, to be able to track potholes. Tracking the basins alone is huge for MS4 because that's not a data piece that we have. Right?
Okay.
We need to have that. So it is a, sometimes you have to invest money to,
Sure.
to make it work more efficiently. Real estate transfer tax, we anticipate to be slightly higher.
And some of the savings are in expenses, too. You'll see some of the line items like professional services, we did not increase. Our professional service in BA has not increased with some professional services that went down. And there's other expenses, too, like our workman's comp, as you mentioned, went from like 3.9 to 3.7. So there is some expenses that decreased.
Gotcha.
And the
Okay.
health insurance, or the liability insurance, too, we kind of kept the same amount. You'll see some of them that we didn't increase. There's some, on the expense side, where there's some savings, too.
Okay, so you're basically saying, we got some unforeseen revenue that we hadn't planned for.
Right.
And then there were some maybe unfilled positions or some savings from some of the other, whatever.
Right. And we have I think we back one slide.
Yeah, go back up one.
One more back. There. Nope. By the way. Yeah. So in business improvements, so some of these are not huge savings, right? Our advertisement costs are significantly down. The other thing we did is the project management team worked together and we redid how we do certified mail. We spend a lot of money on certified mail. They anticipate a $10,000 savings just in certified mail next year.
Wow.
Repay, and I know we talked about that before. So we've moved repay from, it started in ARPA, went to OECD, now it's moving into the BA's office. The significant part about that is when we use repay, we don't pay for stamps anymore. We don't pay for envelopes anymore. We don't pay for the checks anymore. Now, we're very new into that, so we don't really have that piece of information. The other piece that will relieve us from is a lot of the different things we purchase from the banks in order to include the security, like the positive pay from PNC, because we're no longer responsible for that. Repay is.
Okay.
Repay does give us a rebate. It's only a rebate on when somebody uses a check card or credit card to accept the payments.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, we're not paying them any money. So that's a win. So we'll know next year how much we've saved in that, but I think that will be another very positive.
Is there enough contingency built in to the budget to cover any unforeseen expenses?
Yes, we believe so.
Yeah, I think we have, contingency is about $650,000. Yeah, the same as it was last year. And this year we
Mike.
haven't used it.
Mike,
Yeah.
sorry.
There we go, sorry
There you
about that. I thought it was already on. But yeah, contingency, we haven't even used it this year. I think we budgeted 600, I think next year we have 650,000 in contingency. But yeah, we have money built into that.
I'll let you go on with your presentation, but did you add up the total of all the new positions, or what the costs, including
What
benefits?
the cost is, I don't believe we've added that up, but we could certainly
Yeah.
add it up.
Not
and
right now,
send it
but
to you.
that'd be
Yeah.
great.
Not a problem.
So this year, we're seeing an increase in 1.4 million in earned income tax. How do we account for that? I mean, it's a good thing, but
Why do we have it?
Yep.
Well, we've had more economic development. We're tracking, what was it, 250 new businesses over time. So the more businesses we have and people are earning a higher wage. That's the two ways that it comes in. But we had tracked over most of this year at 4%. I know the last one that we got in was over 5 of an increase. So
And that's statewide, you know, because we get we get countywide, but that's statewide, that the earned income tax has really been growing since COVID. And, you know, prior to my history prior to COVID, we always averaged when I was with Pell like 2% a year, but it seems to be 3.5% to 4% across the board since COVID. It's one of those things that are attributed to COVID that changed, and it hasn't abated. I thought it would, but it still keeps growing.
yeah, is
Now,
that
are nonprofits, I'm sorry, are nonprofits subjected to PPT?
Yeah.
They are.
Employees, it's employees. Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, it's earned income.
And-
Or PPT,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that has increased, and what has helped is, you know, once the school district became, and then everybody realized that that's what everybody does. It wasn't two entities doing two different tracks. So that has become more normalized, and it's working. It's working well.
And with the earned income, you're saying now, you know, we're seeing 4% increase, 5% increase. Is it projected to slow down at some point in time, or that's going year to
I
year?
thought that 4 years ago.
Yeah,
As I say,
yeah.
this is, at first I thought it was an anomaly, but when you start getting trends here for 6 years, you start to wonder, is this, what's not an anomaly? An anomaly to me is something that happens every, like, 1, 2, 3 years, then it kind of bends back, but it hasn't really bent back. And like I said, it's not just here in the city, it's not just here in the county, it's across the
Statewide,
Commonwealth,
yeah.
which I think attributes to the overall economy.
And the other positive thing about the city, because we used to talk about economic development as eds and meds, but it's more than that now. We have manufacturing going on, a number of manufacturers. We have a tech industry starting to bubble up. So that adds a lot of diversity to it. So then you don't have a shock if there's a slowdown over here, because there's a lot of different businesses thriving.
Right. And it's professionals, too. The meds and eds are professional salaries, which shows up in their income tax, outside of just manufacturing, you know.
You know, in the bank, so the bank will be coming online next year downtown. So there will be another 100 and some odd people that will be moving into that building downtown. So we'll see more growth.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, so we started talking about a little bit about implementing ESRA, which is it's a big project, but it is a very positive project for the city. I talked a little bit more about the capital spending plan. So this has been really beneficial because it takes those capital expenditures out of the operating budget and has them in their own budget, which we can track over time. Most projects don't occur in 1 year, right? They're over time, and they're difficult to track. The other thing that helps us with this is when the money comes in. So you see that we're still carrying that money from FEMA because they haven't paid us. If that was in the capital plan, that wouldn't show up in the operating budget now. We would be owed to it in the capital spending plan, because it could account for things that aren't paid for over a period of time. So that has been, I think Matt and I are both really pleased with how that has worked through over the course of the year.
Yeah, we worked through some quirks as this is the first year, but, you know, the staff has been really good in the BA's office, and all the department directors have acclimated to it. They know how it all works, especially now this far into 11 months. It's a good positive for the sign. And again, S&P when we do a rating call, this is something that they would like to see, because now we have a true reflection of what is operating in our operating budget. In capital, the last year was a perfect example, because we had that deficit because of that reimbursement never came through. That would not have happened if the capitals were already out of that. You would have seen, we probably would have had a surplus last year, but the capital expenditures being in there distort your operating budget.
400 or 764 right-to-knows, that's one individual. That is a lot of work that goes out through that individual. We talked about repay being expanded and advertising costs being reduced. We are still working with the Pennsylvania Economy League. We're at close to the end point of a 5-year fiscal plan, so we'll be able to share that when it's completed. We're just about to the end. And we talked about the certified mail process, which you've got to hand it to actually the gentleman that does the right-to-knows, and Nate from the VA's office actually took this project on, and it was a good outcome.
When it comes to those 764 right-to-knows, is that average? Has it upticked this year? Has it come down from last year? Do you happen to know that offhand?
I would say that's probably about average, and I would surmise that, we could check and get that number, but I'd say that's probably ballpark, and I would anticipate it'll be even higher next year. So these are ESRA improvements again, although you can't see the paving map. We could use that paving map and highlight in one color what the city has paved, highlight another color what UGI has paved, another color what the water company has paved. And it gives us a good lens on seeing where we are and tracking where we are. We'll get in the beginning of the year, the water company will give us their projected schedule for the year, and we could put that as a different color or a dotted line. It almost never holds all the way true, but it gives us a really good idea about how do we best use our resources. Pave cut dashboard is another that has been really moving in the right direction. It's been a long year of getting all the utilities to where they need to be, but we're happy to see how that's trending. As I said, the capital budget tracker, we always sort of joke in the office, there's really no software that exists that we've tracked that actually does exactly what we want it to do. So we end up having pieces of data in this program and some over here. But this gives us a good window to be able to track how it was budgeted, how the invoices came in, what's the timeline, what's the projected endpoint to the project, and where we are in line with the expiration of grants. And the last is the pothole reporter. This really, we've gotten DPW on board. They understand what they need to do and how to track them. So that's been a nice partnership with DPW and the project management office.
The pothole reporter, it does have an outward-facing piece, right?
Yeah.
Do any of the other ones, the paving mat, the pave cut dashboard, any of that have?
Everything in ESRA can have an outward-facing, and you could change what you would have outward. One that we don't have up here is road closures, which is great. When we have the marathon or La Festa or whatever, and we could set it up and we could put that right out on the website to say on these 3 days this road is going to be closed. So that one does. The capital budget tracker, we can put certain pieces of data out front. And the paving map, obviously we could put that one out.
Yeah, with the pave cuts, this year, we started last year with the new pave cut process with the third party. It was $500,000. It was one of the first things I noticed in this year's budget was it had decreased to $300,000. I mean, obviously, that's what you're projecting that third party company to cost. Can you explain the pave cut process a little bit and how we've come from $500,000?
So the $500,000, we really didn't know what exactly the cost, what it would be. So we used 500 as a number that we wouldn't go over.
Yeah,
right?
that's probably like a higher.
It was high. We definitely shot high. But at the end of the day, that's a pass-through. So whatever's coming in is going back out the other side. There's an administrative fee. So we're down. I think we put $300,000 in for this year. But that's I don't even know if we'll get to $300,000. I think we'll be maybe close to $250,000, $230,000 by the end of this year.
Okay. Even with a lot of right now we have a lot of projects that are going on, and I'm sure a lot of permits that are pulled. I would think that this year would be a high year, maybe coming in at around $500,000, but it's still not. It's about $250,000 or so.
Don't forget a couple of things. What we did previously, we charged an amount of money that was in the city ordinance. We ended up in litigation over that in the previous administration. So we aligned with PennDOT's specifications and PennDOT's fees. So we're total lockstep with what PennDOT does. The other thing that you have to note is, so this is a long process, right? You do a PA1 call, you go ahead and you do the pave cut, then they do a temporary repair. 30 to 60 days, 30 to 90 days have to go by before they could do the permanent repair. Once the permanent repair is done, it's generally picked up in their next pavement cycle for the final overlay and the final finishing. Different utilities work differently, so we might get paid more routinely from one might wait longer to the end. So we end up with, over time it'll match, but it's not always equal because we're paying the inspectors and we're waiting on the utilities to pay us. So it catches up over time, but there's such a time lapse in trying to get these pave cuts done by the mechanism that they have to follow.
Yeah. Are we happy with the company that we're using right now?
I can't tell you. You know, a funny anecdote, one of our project managers was out, and he was out with a utility, I won't say which one, and they were walking behind him, they were out looking at a project, and the guy from the utility said to his other guy, "It's not like this everywhere, it's just like this here, they're watching us here." So, I'm very happy that the utilities know that we're paying attention, and that if the product is not right, we're going to call them. We meet them on a regular basis. The folks in my office email them and say, "Hey, this is wrong, that's wrong," and they do address it. So I'm very happy with the relationships that we're developing with the water company, both the wastewater and the drinking water side, and UGI.
And Eileen, I think it's important to flag, and especially when you think about ESRI, we've built a process now that's not only trackable and manageable, and if you think back 5-6 years, how are these things even tracked? There was nothing. So we have GIS locations, we have Latin long on where these cuts are. So if there's situations where we need to change a vendor, or if this is something where it changes and these positions need to be created to go through and work with pave cuts, great. We have a system in place that we've invested in now that gives us not only institutional knowledge, but where are these actual locations and how can we go through and work with it. Without a system like ESRI, it's just, I don't even know how you go through and do it. It's maps and pens and pencils. Like, it's just not sustainable. No, to your point, with the amount of work that's going on in the city at this point in time, there's no manual way that this could have been tracked.
So are we still identifying ones that fell through the cracks, like you said, that weren't tracked 5 years ago? Because they're the ones
So,
I hear about the
I know,
most.
they're the ones you hear about.
I don't hear
That's-
about the new ones because they look great,
So
and they should.
here's what happens, right? So historically, it would be, there was a pave cut by UGI in the 300 block of North Washington. Okay. I don't know if we go out there, how many pave cuts would be in the 300 block of North Washington. And then what we get from the utilities is this.
Yeah, I know.
Right? So very often, if they're that old and we truly cannot pin it on them, we're addressing them. It's not the most ideal, but it's really hard to track. If it's a very slow street and there's one pave cut, we could go back and say, yes, American Water, that was you. But on streets where there's a lot of pave cuts, it's really challenging.
All right, because I know there's a blame game. There's been a blame game since I'm here.
Right.
And I'm here a while. So, but I'm glad because they're the ones that the people have the most problem with because of how old they are. They're the ones that they're flattening tires and, so I hope while these guys are out there doing their great job that, maybe they don't have to wait for us to get a call. They can identify, even though it might not be on their tracking or on their radar, but, if they see something, say something, or see something, do something. We want that done in every other aspect of our world because they're out there, and I'm still dodging them.
Sure. Actually, our code enforcement officers track them for us as well. So when they see them, they report them into. It's just another set of eyes out there.
Okay, thanks.
I'll speed up. Project management, as you know, we've talked many times about all the parks. Next year, you'll see work on Connell, Clover, Grace, and Weston Field. They're on the tee for next year. We talked about pave cuts. I was here a couple weeks ago about streetscapes. Stormwater. So stormwater, with the exception of Kaiser Valley and Linden, they're all either out for bid or underway. Those are, they're designed, we're waiting on permits, especially in Kaiser Valley. There's a significant permit hurdle to get that done. Bridge replacements, we finished North Main this year. Cedar, Elm, and Greenridge are on the tee to be finished next year. Some of that work is done. In 2027 is West Lackawanna going on. As you know, City Hall went through that project and it was phenomenal. Next one. And just as a scope of the project management office, there are currently, in 2025, there were 50 projects that we have managed. They're either, some are completed, some are designed, and some are in progress. And that totaled to over $80 million of projects managed in that office.
I'll be quick here to get us back on time. Treasury Department is myself, as well as 2 full-time union clerical positions. Basically, we are tasked with daily deposits, whether it be checks from every department, as well as single tax office and county. Our bigger ones being from the single tax office, which includes the real estate transfer, earned income, LST, delinquent business, privilege, and mercantile tax. So we also do the refuse exonerations. We have done 97 so far this year, which are mostly 2024 exonerations. And they'll be picking up 25, probably within the middle of December. We'll start doing those, and which is we can get the residents their money back if they show us utility bills with little or no usage. We also deal with the Act 98 escrow, which initiates with the fire inspectors getting a hold of me about fire damaged property. And then in turn, I'll reach out to the insurance company provided to me. We can get the money. If it's deemed Act 98, we can hold until the process is finished, and we can get that money back to them once the house is up to date, as well as the condemnation escrow. Basically the same thing that goes through the lips. They have to go through the process of getting it uncondemned, and we can get them their money back. Also has a great relationship with rental registration. Robin does a great job. She's a great asset. I have another liability or ability to see, how many units a house is registered for, if there's any, errors or questions with somebody's refuse bill on their taxes. And we also collect all the 2020 and prior refuse delinquencies, whether it be payments. We can provide the payoff requests for the liens, as well as getting those liens satisfied once I receive payment. This is just a little overview of the salaries from 2025 compared to the 2026 proposed ones. And then the next line will be my budget increased by 2 line items this year. We have a standard salary as well as the overtime. The postage and freight came down from the BA office, so you won't see one up there. It's in mine now since I have the postage machine. We thought it made more sense to be down here. And this number will be increased, you can see from the prior years of BA, because we pay Portnoy the postage fees as well as all their delinquency notices that they get sent out. And then the supplies item will be basically for my water bills, any miscellaneous supplies that we'll have throughout the year.
So that was the justification for the increase, because it was, what, 100 and...
We used to pay the Portnoy postage out of the revenue line item, delinquent refuse, so we put it into expenditure now so we can get a true delinquent refuse number.
So the department in total is going up quite an amount.
Right, that whole line item was never in my budget, so it'll be completely out of BA and in Treasury now.
Okay, and that's why it's going from 152 to 334.
It was only postage in BA, but then we added the Portnoy piece, so it'll be higher, because that was getting paid out of a revenue account rather than expenditure.
The contract with Portnoy, they send out the postage, but we pay the postage. So we get a bill once a year for like $85,000, $90,000, and we used to take it and just put it up into delinquent refuse, which would decrease the revenue, which is not correct. So we did that in code enforcement with the third party. So we want revenues just going up there. When you have an expense, now we have an expense line, so we can track this and not reduce, because it would reduce the actual amount of delinquent refuse we were getting. So that, and we don't want to do that. We wanted to show this is how much we're getting, not reduced by $90,000.
Thank you, that helps, because that was one of the ones that jumped out too when looking at the budget.
Yeah, we didn't have it in there, yes.
Yeah, if you recall, it's similar to what we did with the third party and the code enforcement a couple years ago.
So if an individual misses the refuse and it goes to Portnoy. We had an individual come into fourth order here a few weeks ago, and they had a situation where they were trying to get that delinquent bill paid. I know I got a phone call about in 2023, I had a delinquent payment, it went to Portnoy. I spoke to Portnoy, they told me that what I owed, I sent them a check, paid it in full, and I was still getting calls from Portnoy saying that it wasn't paid in full. Who's the best person to talk to in situations like that? Is it you?
Me, and then I can contact Portnoy.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
No problem. That's all for me.
Thank you, Council. First, I'd like to talk a little bit of what we accomplished this past year. The HR staff went through some training on I-9 information. So once we completed that training, we did an internal self-audit just to make sure that all of our files were up to date. If there was any missing information that we needed, we were able to go ahead and do that. We also had a safety program. Every month, we did some form of safety training for the employees. It went everywhere from like bending and stretching the right way, to ergonomics, to just various. Every month we had something different. Our workman's comp, and if we could go back to that in 1 second, but our workman's comp is still looking really good. It's still trending down. It's just constant oversight, and we get case managers on things right away, and we just kind of follow through the whole process, and it's really been working. We started the digitizing process, and we're in the middle of negotiating the DPW contract. Hopefully that will happen soon. And we initiated a 457B plan for the employees, which is another way for them to save money. If we could go to, so this is the workman's comp numbers. If you look down at 2025, the first one is lost time, then it's medical-only claims, and then it is record-only claims. So really, everything is looking very good there. And then we can go to the salary detail. And this is just basically the salaries this year, asking for a 3% increase for next year. No new positions. That basically speaks for itself. And then here's the budget. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. The biggest hurdle this year, the biggest surprise, I guess, was the increase in health insurance. But we have accounted for that, and we're managing that. I don't know if anybody has any questions about this.
When it comes to the public health coordinator, do we still have a public health coordinator?
No, we do not.
Okay. What would be, if we get one, what is the funding going to be for that position? And I know Moses Taylor does it.
Yeah, previously it was Moses Taylor, so I'm not really sure. We really haven't talked much about that this year.
So Kaylee, I could chime in?
Yeah,
We
sure.
have spoken to Moses Taylor, and they will allow us to continue to use the funding from that grant if we identified someone that would be able to take that position.
And then what we'll be focusing on next year is more employee training. We want to concentrate on dealing with the citizens and customer service, and having each department in the city trained with what they are doing outward facing and how they're handling the public. And also getting some specialized training for the different positions here in the city. I mean, there really hasn't been any kind of formal training. It's just kind of been, when you come in, you learn the job as you're doing it, and we'd like to formalize that a little bit. And The most important thing and very exciting thing is we're changing our payroll company. We're going to be moving to People Guru, and they also, it will make for uniform time tracking. Everything's going to be digitized. And people will be able to check their time stub, their pay stub beforehand, track how much time they have, and it's also good for the supervisors to make sure that the time is all being tracked when they're taking their time off. And we are continuing with digitizing. We're starting with the most recent records first in human resources and working backwards. And do you have any questions?
I have a question. So,
Sure.
are yearly observations, evaluations being conducted? And if so, because we were told last year that was a new process that I was grateful and happy to hear.
Right.
And who's doing them? Department heads?
Department heads. Yes.
And then they're given to you and they're on file, obviously, right?
Then they go into the employee files, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening, Council. I'm Jack Reager. I'm the Director of IT for the city, and I'll try to be a little more condensed with this. Just sort of some of our highlights from the year and where we'll be going in the next year. We've completed a cutover of the phone system within City Hall. One of the big things that we were looking for there was the ability to pull call logs for activity, missed calls, calls in, calls out, something that the city hadn't had previously, so we have some granular information there. Voicemail over email, which was something that we want to ensure that if there is a voicemail left, that it ends up in the individual's mailbox. So we've added some pieces there to make it a little easier for staff across the board. Just some of how the sausage is made. We've had to update a number of our file systems, how we're sharing files across the organization. We had some dated hardware, which we've talked about in the past. You have agreed to fund previously, and that's sort of what we worked through this year as well. We've extended a lot of our network, so that's one of the things, again, that we invested in last year. We'll be working through into 26 as well. This includes the firehouses. We've updated camera systems. We've looked at the footprint for the city in terms of how we're observing locations, what we have from a public safety standpoint. We weren't necessarily using facilities previously, but we have ourselves positioned in a way that we're able to extend sort of in that hub and spoke component. The LPR project for this year was a large one. We've updated 22 LPRs throughout the city. As you'll recall, when you've heard about Axon and our investment in public safety in Axon itself, every vehicle that's on the road carries an LPR on it as well. So you're looking closer to about 65 LPRs in action in the city based on that investment. Just to give you a little more practicality of that, every patrol vehicle that drives up a road is scanning every one of those license plates. That's something without that investment in technology that we would ever be able to do. Fleet upgrades, when we made our shift into this year, when we worked with bringing in new vehicles across the board, on average we're seeing 20 vehicles on the road. I'm sure Chief Carroll and his team will come and talk to you a little bit about what that actually means compared to where we were 4 or 5 years ago. Our areas of focus, I won't necessarily bore you with all of it. What we're looking into going not only this year, tail end Q4, and going into next year moving forward is new software platforms. We have expanded our Axon footprint considerably. I'll show you a little bit about it as we go through this. Facility access controls is also a major focus for what we do in IT. To be quite, I guess, frank with how it works, it's the door swipes. What are we able to control? How are we able to keep people secure? What you'll be hearing more about in the coming months is how we will be securing our fire facilities. That's something that has been woefully I guess, recognized previously, and now we're in a place where our footprint is able to expand, and we're able to extend those door swipes and give every employee of the city a safe place to operate without worrying about individuals who may just appear. The platforms themselves, GIS, we'll talk a little bit about Esri in general. Eileen's touched on it at a high level. I talked about it a little bit with pave cuts, the fact that there was no human way without throwing bodies at the problem that we would track something like pave cuts. That's one component of what we do at the city, as you all know. So now extend that out. We have the Basins project that you'll see, and I'll show you a little bit about that in a second. Very simple. You can walk out of your house, you see a storm drain, take a picture of it. It's going to allow us to record those out in a manner that that we won't be able to have a utility company say, oh, that's not mine. We will have it down to the lat and long of where this is located in a manner that, quite frankly, we would not be able to do without software and without the department and the teams to support the software.
I have a quick question about the simulated phishing campaigns.
Yep.
I mean, I think I'm a victim of it, obviously. So what are you doing with that data? Or how's that going? Because I don't know if it's you or someone else outside of
There's a team.
our world.
So I can tell you, Councilman McAndrew, you are not our worst offender. I appreciate the work that you're doing with it.
Well, I don't touch it.
The reality is we do have, it's a constant battle. I can share with you that we have employees with the best intention, and there's always an opportunity that they're going to click on the wrong thing. You'll notice even on your own city softwares or your city email over the last year, you see that giant yellow, hey, this is not from us, everybody. That aligns with what we had seen with phishing. People, and the term is spoofing, you'll see that, oh, hey, this looks like an HR email that came out. It's something that is monitored regularly. We have a system in place that grades out every employee that has an email address. We see what they do. We see where they fail. And it's an opportunity for improvement.
When it's not you, and I receive others, should I report this to you?
So yes, there's
Because
a
I'm
little...
not reporting the others because I think it's you.
Right.
If
So
you know
there's
what I
a
mean.
little button in the upper right, and what's nice is it'll give you a good pat on the back if it was an actual simulated campaign, or it will log to us and the system and address everybody's mailbox in the system to make sure that phishing piece doesn't land. So it's one of those things we've invested in and you've approved in the budget over the last 2 years, and it has been one of those pieces, and I know Councilman King has asked about where we are postured from a security standpoint as an organization. This is one of our big areas that we just constantly have to look at and work on, and this is a tool that will allow us to improve.
Jack, you mind? Well, the topic you brought up is very important, not just for security here in the city, but this topic comes up in the audit. They get an audit. The auditor looks at our security system. S&P, when we do the rating call, look at this. So it's outside entities that are looking at this very facet of how are you secure in your internal internet email system from these attacks coming in. So we got a lot of eyes looking at this, and everyone has their own. Every year it goes up another level. They're looking to get this where Jack's at. This is where I bring that up. So this is very important to other people.
Again, anecdotally, you approved the investments previously, multi-factor authentication. As you'll recall, the Scranton School District had a ransomware incident last year. That was something where we had to spin up immediately and harden our environment because we have officers, SRO officers, that operate within the school district. With the tools that you've invested in previously, that was just a flick of the switch where we can go through and work through those pieces. So there's components of this that, while we see those price tags and we see increases in licensing, the risk far outweighs the investment that we're making at this point.
If I could just add to that as well, because I work with our insurance broker in negotiating our insurance coverage every year. Really integral, the things that Jack is doing in this regard to ensure that we have adequate coverage, that our coverage is expanded, and that the cost of the premium for that coverage is decreasing because of all these proactive measures.
Mr. Reager, so I think it looked like your budget went up about $189,000 this year. Can you just give a
The
brief run through
two
that?
quick pieces, we've continued to see an increase in our telephone investment line item, and you'll see that's a number that keeps growing, and everybody can attest to here begrudgingly that we have to pay those carriers. Those carriers and those increases are going to be tied to cell cards related with the fleet vehicles and what we see with the cameras. As we hang cameras and LPRs, those need to operate under the telephone component. Eileen touched on, we have moved a position that was funded 79% or so in OECD into the IT budget. So that's the other large component of what you've seen there. Between those two, those are one manageable in terms of moving the individual. The other, unfortunately, we deal with those third-party providers.
Was that digital content coordinator?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so that's moving over from OECD into
Yep.
IT. The GIS system, you had it on the last slide. Can you give a brief overview of that?
I'll jump to it and then I'm going to jump back.
It is the Esri that we talked about before, potholes, pave cuts?
Yeah, this one, I apologize. We'll get you the deck so you can kind of go through this. This is going to be the MS4 component. That's unusable. I apologize. The tools on the GIS side, very expandable, and to your point, we can open this up as we go, and there's components that have been opened up. To your point, the pothole component. We'll launch this basin reporter by next week. So the ideal here is an individual will take a photo of the basin. When Esri presented this to us, the GIS company, they had shown us a final tool set that existed, and it was actually about adopting the actual basin. So individuals, Boy Scout troops, things along those lines would say, oh, we're going to keep this one clean kind of thing. So we don't necessarily need to go there. It's a great idea. Maybe we'll get there at some point, but we at least need to record these and put them in place and put it out to the residents. Not only then can they go and take a picture with their phone, but they can go through and see the different components of it. The tool set is very specialized. It's not something where an individual can just walk in and work with this like they can a Microsoft product. You need to understand mapping. You need to understand just Latin long and how these things convert to actual physical addresses. So what we're seeing not only is the technical folks, and they're located in the PM office at this point. Once they're working with it, there needs to be a degree of management over this that just we don't have, and we don't want to outsource this. So as much as we can build that skill set and keep working with it, as opposed to paying $200 an hour for a specialist to come and sort of manage this for us, that's the place we're at. So we've got the tool set, you've got this environment. We have about 486 different interactive maps that exist in our environment today. I think it's a little overwhelming, but to map people and folks that work with GIS, and when you look at LIPS and you look at our city planning department, this is a very integral part to something we have not had previously. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just want an explanation of the system. So what it all entails, it is the basins, it is the potholes, it is the pave cuts, it's everything in the city that deals with mapping?
Yes, and their frank question to us is, give us a problem that you need to solve with place. And I said, look, that's a little too philosophical for me. Where are we going here? So it is a matter of, we have so much infrastructure that can be mapped, presented to individuals, but as Eileen pointed out, there's a lot of business process there. How you can look at budget in a little different manner. How can you take a project arc from start to finish and see where it lands? So they have those components, but the real value to our organization at this point is amplifying those hands we don't have. Where does this sit on a map? How would we do it otherwise? And creating institutional knowledge. Again, these are things that the city hasn't had previously. It's on a rolled up map somewhere. Now it's, let's log in and just look at it. Or let's just open this up to the community and the residents and see how they feel this should work, or what this is in their own neighborhood.
Yeah. Now, does that just cover, say, code enforcement, DPW projects like the basins and the pave cuts, or is it also entailing police department, fire department?
Citywide, you'll see, and Eileen touched on smoke detectors. There's a couple officers. Officer McDermott does a lot of actual intelligence review with this tool set. So what they do is work with our CAD, our computer-aided dispatch, takes those calls, takes those incidents, maps them, looks at where that whole arc of crime or investigation lives, all of the proactive steps of the policing, all of the integration of tools to do analysis to say, okay, is this an area we need to pay more attention to? And the chief uses it to set up his districts, go through and set up his policing and his patrols along those lines. Again, these are tools that without technology to assist them, it just isn't going to be as efficient as it is today as a result of it. Yeah. This is a quick one, a little less blown out. This is Axon Fusus and what we'll be working into this year. Axon Fusus is the last component of the Axon suite that you have allowed us to invest in and blessed. This has our cameras, our LPRs. This has our vehicles on the road. This has our officers and their body cams as they walk through the streets. It is a single pane of glass that allows for a management and operational awareness in a way that, again, the police department required at this point in time. You've got a lot of individuals that not only are quite professional and do great work, we've also inundated them with technology over the last 2 years, and they've done a great job adopting it. This will be a little bit of the culmination of all those efforts. It gives a level of sophistication in a way that, again, we did not have. You can see just on this example, these are downtown screens. They can hit one of the cameras, pull up the locations, and go through and see what's happening in real time. This is just not something that a department would be able to do without the assistance of technology in this particular investment. 2026 projects, and again, I apologize, we're running a little long. The Axon investment is absolutely something that we will continue to build on and work with. The support of the Esri component. We've talked about the individuals from a PM standpoint or a resource standpoint that's going to work with the tool set itself. The reality is there's a large technology support mechanism that's required for this. This doesn't just run on, an everyday computer. So thankfully we're in a position where my team's able to support these devices and work through and continue. Dollars and cents we had sort of run through at a very high level. Our big components here, we have the transfer of the employee to the department, the increase in cell feeds tied to fleet and public safety cameras, and our ongoing employee training and equipment. We're investing in individuals. You all have invested in my team over the years, and I appreciate that because this allows us not only to train them and keep them in-house, it reduces our dependency on outside contractors, which, as you all know, is extremely costly in the end. Any questions? Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to get back to Granicus. Every year I ask Santa Claus to make Granicus keyword searches.
Yes.
And I know I'm on a couple naughty lists in this building, and I get it. But can I ask again? What's the problem? I'm told we can get it, but we just don't.
The update I can give you is, with Mr. Voldenberg's help, the way the transcription has worked is now we get a document that is actually searchable. We have the documents up until 2024, and we are working through 2025. Before the end of the year, you will have a tool set that will allow you to search minutes and agendas just with a regular search. So yes, you will see it before the end of the year.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm going to hold you to it this year.
And I will deliver it.
All right, so also for the ESRI, the original cost was $5,000? Am I a little?
No, the original cost, it was in 2024, it was paid for out of ARPA. I believe it was $650,000.
But in the legislation, I think it says 5,000. But now it's 580.
Well, there was a supplemental piece. We bought a supplemental piece that was 5,000. There would have been previous legislation earlier.
So now it's 582,000. It's 582,000.
I believe it's 650 is the
six,
actual
okay.
total, and it was purchased out of ARPA previously.
I know it was ARPA.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, good evening, council. Thank you for the time tonight, and good evening to the public. I'm going to kick us off by focusing on litigation that the city is currently defending against. I'll go quickly, but stop me if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer. So just to break down the stats, we presently have 28 active lawsuits that we're defending against. 10 of those involve law enforcement liability coverage or involve the Scranton Police Department. 5 are general civil rights, and 13 are general liability. Those are your typical slip and fall or property claims. Our track record for concluding cases in 2025 has been positive. We've had 0 losses or adverse rulings, 9 dismissals, and 9 settlements. I want to drill down a little bit further on some of the statistics here relative to litigation and focus on the police department and our law enforcement liability coverage for a moment. So of the 15 suits that were newly filed this year, 7 or just under 50% involved the police department. This reflects a consistent increase that we've been seeing over the last few years. This is a trend that is not germane to the city of Scranton. This is something that's happening nationally. We're seeing that reflected in insurance coverage as well. Right now, the law enforcement liability insurance market is what would be considered hard, meaning it's more expensive and more difficult to obtain coverage. That said, I will let you know that our carrier that for law enforcement liability has set reserves at nominal value, meaning they believe that the vast majority of these cases are without merit. We continue to defend them vehemently. It's one of my roles that I find most sacred in my job as city solicitor, but it does reflect in some rising costs on the law department. To mitigate these costs, insurers recommend that police departments take certain proactive measures. They really recommend body camera usage, which we're doing, enhanced accreditation, which the police department has just accomplished, as well as more stringent hiring, which you all know that we've updated the civil service regulations and have improved in that regard as well. So very proud of the measures we are taking, and I think it really is helping to mitigate the costs and help us to obtain significant dismissals in federal court. Moving to the proactive litigation side, we are fully staffed and have been able to engage in more proactive litigation. We did file suit for enforcement of a contract matter, and we're able to recover over $200,000 in that case. We additionally have pursued with our tax solicitor. Over the last 2 years, they've filed 200 lawsuits to pursue delinquent business privilege and mercantile taxes. So we are holding business owners accountable in paying their fair share. We've, through that effort, recovered over $200,000 and anticipate an additional 25 to 50 lawsuits being filed before the end of the year as well. On the code enforcement side, we've been able to support the city's efforts to address blight. So we've legally obtained authority to take down 25 blighted properties throughout the city. We also obtained an injunction for a dog hoarding situation. We've also participated in and defended in court the closure of nuisance properties. So we really have been proactive in not only defending lawsuits, but also advocating for our residents and our quality of life. In addition to litigation, you all are intimately familiar with the fact that we've authored over 185 pieces of legislation this year. Routine matters necessary for city operations and projects, but also some cleanup initiatives to clean up outdated provisions of the code, close special cities accounts, so that work continues. We also very much fully support the projects that are going on throughout the city, the physical projects that you see, stormwater, streetscapes. In that regard, we've authored in partnership with Eileen and the project management department over 75 contracts this year alone. We also spearheaded the negotiations for the parking restructure, the debt restructure, and the lease amendments that you all saw. That generated writing off of $15 million worth of debt. That means that $15 million will not be borne by our ratepayers and our community to support the parking system. And we also have participated in a number of trainings, fellowships. We'll continue that effort and continue to improve our capabilities within the law department. With all of that in mind, you can see that our department budget is remaining relatively consistent. We have no proposed changes to staffing. However, we are proposing a slight increase in professional services and court awards, which we are moving into the law department's budget. We are the only department that utilizes that line item. And those increases to court awards and professional services, again, correlate to the increased experience we're seeing on the law enforcement lawsuits. We also have a nominal increase set because we will be implementing AI legal research to keep up with advancements in technology in the legal profession.
The increase in the budget is, in your budget is about what, 575,000?
So no, that is
545.
incorrect. We are simply moving the court award court awards line item from a non-departmental into the law department's budget.
Okay, and that justifies that increase, is just
Correct.
that piece there? Okay.
Yeah, so that is not a new line item for us, that's simply moving it into our
your
department.
department. Okay.
No one else uses it, and I would not advocate for any other city department settling lawsuits unilaterally.
Yeah. When looking at the delinquent mercantile tax, the actuals on 23 and 24, we had 22,000 and we had 12,000. This year we're budgeting 190,000. Are we looking to get 190,000 in delinquent mercantile?
Yes, we've been very aggressive in pursuing those. Again, we have one part-time tax solicitor who's filed over 200 lawsuits over the last 2 years. He's very busy in court quite frequently, and we hope to have 25 to 50 more by the end of the year this year. So
And this year is going to be that big jump?
we hope.
Okay.
It takes time for these cases don't conclude in under a year, so matters that have been filed this year may not be resolved or decided by a court until next year.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
All right, well, thank you,
That's
counsel.
it. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We'll take a few minutes, we'll get all this cleaned up, and then we'll start our regular meeting.